India, because India had great wealth. So it was a very small country, but very, very wealthy country for some reason. So finally, of course, the British did conquer it. They took away all the wealth. They took a lot of wealth away. But it was their pride. It was the British Empire that was so surprised they had all the wealth. And they utilized and they exploited the wealth of India. India was not a poor country. It was very, very wealthy. They had a lot of gold, had a lot of jewels. It had the biggest diamonds in the world up until they discovered diamonds in South Africa. And some of those big diamonds, they were taken out of India. This one went into King's Crown, or the King's Crown, top of the crown there. It was actually a temple diamond and ended up in the crown there. A big ruby here, Baroda ruby is there somewhere in some European museum or something. In Russia, before the communists took over, they had the Tsars, the Emperor of Russia, so he had this the big diamond on top of that king also. So India was not a poor country at all. It had a wealth of sapphires, rubies, diamonds, gold, other semi-precious. So in terms of mineral wealth, it was very, very prominent. And when the Europeans did come there, even though this is like 500 years ago, or 100 years ago, India was in decline. It was all divided up into different warring states, etc. But even then, the wealth was largely still visible at that time. This is from Hampi, which is an upper Karnataka state. Actually, Lord Chaitanya also. And Krishna Deva Rai was king at the time. But this is also the time when the first Europeans managed to get India into business. So the first Europeans that came there were welcomed by the king, were put in their guest. But they were very shocked because the room was all gold. It was covered in gold. They'd never seen something in Europe. You don't see the kings of Europe, nothing like that. Well, this one little kingdom, the upper state. And this was the market. But they didn't sell bananas and coconuts. They had huge baskets of diamonds and rubies. They were selling rubies in the marketplace like mangoes. So they were very astonished. Well, this one, state, one little country, Krishna Deva Rai, they were shocked by the amount of wealth that was there at that time. It was only 500 years ago. So India was by no means an honest culture. But it's not just material wealth. Ancient India also had, they were interested in learning, so they established the first university. First university, 700 BC. So they were advanced not only in terms of wealth, and of course we know that they were very advanced in medicine. And Dharmataryas are found in Ayurveda. And that tradition is remarkable because it's an ancient type of medicine. But no other ancient medicine, except maybe Chinese medicine, has continued to be practiced until the present day. But Ayurveda is still there. You still have Ayurvedic colleges, and you can study the script, the ancient Sanskrit texts there, the Charaka scriptures, sutras, medical treatises. They're still studied after thousands of years. And it was not just a bunch of herbs. So Shuddha also did operations. He actually cut people open. So he's considered to be the father of surgery. So they were quite advanced in terms of medical treatments in India. And like I said, still the treatments are going on. In terms of language, of course, we know that the Sanskrit language is a highly developed language. It's very flexible language. So you can use it for scientific things, for astronomical things. You can use it for poetry, drama, and whatever. So we have everything in Sanskrit in ancient times. And it was a flexible language used for many purposes. And as I said, it was quite methodically organized. And Panini was the grammarian, standardized all of the rules. So the language is such that it follows rule more than other languages, like English got no too many exceptions, but Sanskrit you can program very nice in the computer. It's very logical and everything follows rule. So a very, very, very interesting language. And that language, ancient language, 5,000 years ago, the Rig Veda is there. The language has continued until the present time. Now, if you look at the ancient language of Egypt or whatever, nobody can speak that. Ancient Greek, nobody knows it. Ancient Assyrian language, like from 1,000 years ago, nobody speaks it. But the Sanskrit language is still alive. So that's another remarkable thing. It's continued from ancient past up until the present. Panini, who wrote the grammar, he also was interested in how human beings make sound with their mouth, make words and languages. So this became the science of linguistics. He established that linguistic science 400 years before Christ. But in the Western world, that's only developed the last 100 years or so, developed linguistic science. So they were all very intelligent people back then. Not that they had some golden diamonds. They were also great thinkers at that time. And of course, they were very highly advanced mathematics, astronomy, and actually astronomy is part of the Vedas, or the Jyotish, one of the Angas of the Vedas. So along with the Vedas, we got study of movements of planets, sky, etc. So for ancient times, they had established observatories by charting the movements of planets. And when you start trying to figure out how to predict the future movement of Mars or Venus, etc., you do need very advanced mathematics, involves trigonometry and calculus, etc. So they developed all these things very, very early, long before they did investment. So they're very highly advanced mathematics. And of course, even our numbers come from script, ancient script, Indian. So we think of this as something everyone takes for advantage, the numbers. But, you know, Rome didn't have this number system. They have Roman numerals, which is a very clumsy system to count. A very, very clumsy system, but here they had a very sophisticated system of numbers. We see also, if you read Bhagavatam, their numbers are very huge, like the day of Brahma. There's so many billions of years. The life of Brahma is like trillions of years. So they had huge numbers in ancient India that nowhere in other countries. Ancient India, huge, huge numbers. They're measuring the size of the universe, etc. So mathematics and astronomy were very advanced in ancient India. So though they had very, very spiritual depth, they also had very, very intellectual science depth also. So it says that Aryabhatta, he is the one that invented the zero, which is very important for mathematical calculations. Etc. Don't have that. It's very, very difficult to calculate. And he also explained eclipses in terms of the modern way, the shadow of, the moon coming in front of the sun. And of course, he also explained, spherical Earth that rotates on an axis. And this was long years before modern science developed. And Galileo and others in Europe, they started challenging the church and said, "Oh, we're looking through our telescopes, and we see the moon is not like this; it's different, and that the Earth is, revolving on an axis." So it came up thousands of years later. So the science of it based upon observation. So Bhaskara more 1,200 AD. So he developed differential calculus and trigonometry long before Newton also developed independent development. So he made very great contributions to geometry. So therefore, India was very advanced in many fields, including science. But of course, the we say a big contribution is spiritual side. That is, we have Vedas, which are one of the oldest religious texts in among texts, oldest text anyway, not even considered religious or whatever, and like 5,000. With the Puranas and the Smritis, etc., all of which are written in Sanskrit and all very well. So, and not only that, they're not small ones, they're huge ones. So we don't have one Veda, we have 4 Vedas. And each Veda has 4 sections: the Brahmanas, Aranyaka, Upanishad. So to learn the 4 Vedas, not many people can do that. So the Veda is fast. But then we have the epics like Mahabharata, also huge. If we look at the epics of the Western world, Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, very small. Mahabharata, very big, huge work. Ramayana, huge work. So vast literature is available. These are just some of the things. Of course, within Mahabharata, to make things a little easier for people, we have the Bhagavad Gita, which summarizes all the Vedic knowledge in one of these Bhagavad Gita. And then, of course, we have Ramayana. This became very famous because it spread. The story of Ram is fascinating. It spread into Southeast Asia, India, and Thailand, but not even into China. So, very, very influential work that spread out of India. So, India had developed in both ways, spiritually and materially, in terms of material science. In the modern world, it's quite different. When we talk about knowledge, we only talk about scientific knowledge, material knowledge, etc. Everything else is superstition. So if you want to take a philosophy course or that's not so important. Where if you really want to be practical, you have to decide, especially in India. Then you have to take engineering and whatever, and if you take arts. So, this is the modern concept of knowledge. All that side. But we see that in ancient India, that was not so. Vedic knowledge had both aspects, spiritual aspects, because they developed mathematics, medicine, and so many other things, agricultural science, etc. And they both went on simultaneously. One has one of the other. But in the modern world, it's come out that knowledge means this material knowledge. Don't want to hear about it. So it's quite different, the modern world than the ancient world. So we can ask the question, why is it like that? Or which is better? So we can think in terms of your brain. Everybody's got a little brain, but it's 2 brains. Like that. You can separate them. Going to the bottom, but they're like, 2 parts open up like this. Completely separate. So you have a left side and you have a right side brain. And they operate quite different. So we see the ones on the left side, they're little compartments. Everybody with their little work, like in a moment. This is the logic brain. Then we have the brain with no compartments. Everybody's on the field, right, playing around there. That's the creative brain. That's the right side. So you got these 2 brains inside. And what's happened in the modern, they was concentrated on the left. So this is intelligent person. A person who's developed his left brain and his logical abilities. He can do mathematics, science, all sorts of things, but knowledge, and that's what the devil. So the modern civilization more or less overstresses the element of your left brain function and ignores the other half. Which you say, well, what's the use of the other brain? So obviously it looks a little unnatural developing one side of the. So in any case, the right brain is very intuitive. It thinks not, it doesn't try to analyze things. It tries to think of everything as a whole, including our own place in the world, not an isolated part of the whole organism, material world. So it thinks in terms of whole. It doesn't try to analyze things, the three dimensions of height, breadth, all this sort of thing. They can also kind of visualize it under the dimension, like a yogi can do out of the body. And the left brain is very analytical, very logical. It wants to make sense of everything in terms of causes and effects, relationship, etc. Analyzing things with parts. Is that a limits itself? So quite different. So we start emphasizing our left brain more and more. And what happens is that as we do so, we become more limited in our identity. The right brain is like, everything. I'm part of the whole, I'm part of the universe, part of the material, the world, etc. Whereas the left brain tends to isolate you. I am a little individual in terms of, we can say in Bhagavad Gita, this ahankara is emphasized. I think me, I, and my material body. So we get very limited by emphasizing that brain. Consequently, also get isolated from everything in the world. We're here, everybody else. And of course, then everybody is the stress. So by overemphasizing the left brain, a lot of emotional stress and erratic behavior, depression, anger, and all these things result of the overemphasis on the left brain from the artificial existence where everybody getting. So this is one of the problems of modern life, overemphasizing because it's useful for material results, for earning a living, etc. But it has its strong overemphasis is also part to ignore the right brain. So if we were to think in terms of right brain, we would see things quite different. There was one scientist, a neurosurgeon, so nervous, whatever. So she got a stroke, and then her left brain. So she couldn't go, she couldn't make telephone calls, she couldn't do anything. It took her 1 hour to dial the phone because her left brain was functioning properly, putting everything together. But her right brain is functioning. So then she saw the whole world in a completely different way. She was looking, it's quite different from what I thought it was. So eventually it took her like 2 years to cure and whatever. She finally got her left brain movement coordinated and everything. But then she said, as a result of that experience, she realized that modern civilization has overemphasized the development of the left brain. And the right brain is there, but it's very important for us, for our own mental health, to have that balance. Don't have that. A lot of things are going to go wrong with our behavior. So she's in favor of, developing a balance. So let's see. So scripture actually, though it's communicated with us, and we have to use our left brain for the language, grammar, things like that, to try to put it together. Some parts of it don't look very logical. Strange, say, oh, that's super. But we should not think like that because, as I said, some of the information is coming from another dimension, say right brain, higher dimensions, etc. So they look very ridiculous, but in fact, it's true from another point of view. So just as the yogi, when he goes out of his body, he can see other things. Then he comes back and will say, well, you're hallucinating. But it actually is true. His vision is true. So we do have to try to appreciate scripture as, giving us another viewpoint. We can't limit it to our left brain logic. Expand our vision a little bit more. So as a result of all this, we should actually, in terms of brain stabilization, balance our brain out and not just that's everything. We try to balance. If we don't, then we're getting up with our stress situation and all sorts of Uh, but this is, of course, a little bit of a Western analysis because in the Vedic literature, they don't even talk about it. They do have mental functions, but it is something different called your Sukshma Sarir. It's kind of related to the brain, but it's beyond the brain because Sukshma Sarir will go with you out of your body into your next body. So it's kind of eternal almost. It is life after life after life. But that will hold your intelligence and your impressions, memories, experiences, karma, so many things held in that Sukshma Sarir. So the brain functions can also take place. And you can see the brain is, say, a dull reflection of that subtle body that filters into some of the experiences. So, if we can activate the right brain a little bit more, then we can appreciate the higher levels that we could even something beyond our brain, like the subtle body. And beyond that, then we can also understand about the Atma, or the spiritual part of the soul. And beyond that, of course, realize part. So, therefore, we should have to have a more balanced approach to life. So this is what we think of as our body and mind, body and analyze in terms of organs. So that's the very growth of the brain and the heart. Okay. But then the Vedas say, no, we got another body there. Supposedly life after life. This is your subtle body, with mind, intelligence, plus ego. That when you leave your body and goes out, or you have a near-death experience, it comes out and look at your other body. So it's a separate body, and it has its separate. So it's also very real, but modern world, we don't even think about that. And we try to cure this body. The other body sitting there also that has to get cured. So it's another type of medicine. But it's also a material body. But then the other thing is more important than that is both are material. The actual consciousness is coming from the Atma soul. And we completely miss that. Okay? But if the Atma is not there, you're almost dead. So we have to take care of the Atma as well as the subtle body and the goods. Okay. So just out of this presentation, you have to go back to the brain and all that. So there's a little gland there called the pineal gland brain, right stuck between the two sides. Nobody really knows what it's for. It's kind of mysterious, but it does secrete some hormones and things like this. And the theory is that this is spiritual gland. This is like your third eye. This is the one that opens you up to spiritual experience. So we can stimulate that pineal gland somehow, other than we can start. So how are we going to stimulate that gland? So you can try this way and that. Actually, the only way you can do it is through meditation. So it's a subtle process. You can't use drugs and things like that. You have to use meditational process to develop the pineal gland and get it activated so you see it another way and get your right brain activated, get your subtle body activated, understand the Atma. So this goes a little bit of science. In any case, the final process is we have to follow a spiritual process. And the easiest process of doing that is Nam Sankirtan. That's the easiest, effective way of. So, have any more? Okay. Okay, fine. Okay, so that's the physical type of stuff. So the Vedas actually, the scriptures in India do present material knowledge except for various spiritual subject matter. And if we examine, we'll find it is the all-inclusive. So it answers all the questions. And it includes everything from every other religion. So it's a very interesting presentation. So generally, we end up with religions fighting with each other. I'm right, and we are very dualistic and we fight with that. But according to Bible, no, it's all one religion actually. You're just looking at the angles. So this is quite a unique thing. So Bible explains that we can have three basic conceptions of God. One is the most impersonal. God is one entity with no form and no qualities. We can't even give them. And it's quite common around the world. If we look at Judaism and Christianity and Islam, it's basic. No, we can't give a form of God. It's all powerful entity, but we can't really, talk about it. No, we can't express it. A little more advanced, okay, we can give God a little bit of form, and we give us some activities like creating a material world. We call those power. This is what the yogis. The third is called Bhagavan. So this is the personal God, where God has a form, quality, and we establish a relationship with Allah. We develop a personal. So this gives some more detailed knowledge and a detailed, say, more personal relationship because he has a form. So these are the three basic concepts of God, and most religions will fall somewhere between the command and powerful aspects. So there's no form except, but we'll give them a little like creating. So most religions will hold that. In India, we get extremes. So we'll get Shankaracharya's philosophy, holding the Brahman, not even Parama. And then we get Sankhya and others. Who has the Bhagavan? These are the Vaishnavas. Yeah? The Vaishnava groups will understand about Bhagavan. So they may worship Vishnu or Rama or Krishna or something. So it's the Vaishnava who have this idea that but the Bhagavan says they're all authorized realization. According to how you want to approach God, God reveals himself. So it's all one God. It's not two gods, one God. But he can manifest himself in a more general way, that's white light, no form. Or he can manifest a little bit of a form. Okay. Or he can manifest full form of details and qualities you can interact with that one. So one God manifests in three basic ways. And so therefore, in one sense, the Bhagavatam includes all religions. At the same time, it says not all equal. The more knowledge we have, the higher. So Bhagavan realization has highest. Therefore, the Vaishnava movement is higher than the other. But they're all acceptable as forms of God. So in this way, we can say that Bhagavan is very liberal in its acceptance of all, religions. So, as I said, most religions struggle with it. We don't want to have form because form is material. How can God be 3 feet higher? So we should say, okay, God can have form, but it's not limited because it's not material. He can be 4 feet high, but he's also 20 billion miles high. It can be both simultaneously because he's God. So he's got a form, but it's not limited. That's all spiritual. By the way, it doesn't have to be one form. God can have unlimited, not just one form. It can still be one God. So therefore, we have different forms of God. We have Rama, who looks like a human being, but we have Krishna, who's a cowherd boy, but he's blue. We have Shivadev, who looks like a lion, not even a human being. We have Buddha, a human being also. We have Parsuram, who's terrific with the action of hand. We have Vamandev, who's the dwarf. We got Kurma, who's a turtle, but he's Supreme Lord. We got Matsya, who's a fish. We have Ra, who's a pig. So we give all sorts of them, give bird and snake forms also. So God can take all sorts of forms, not just human, in all sorts of colors. But it's all spiritual, and it's all one God. How is it possible? Because he has inconceivable powers, spiritual powers manifest all sorts of ways. So, in spite of the fact that most religions deny that we want to be conformed to God, nevertheless, eventually we get around to the form anyway. So we find that all the Buddhist temples have a statue of Buddha there. They're worshiping a form anyway. If you go to Mecca, of course, they're worshiping that in Mecca, they worship this one stone that they're worshiping there. And of course, if you go to the Sistine Chapel, you will see God represented man. Somehow they bring back anyway, even though it may not be very obvious. So yes, God has a form, but why he has to be an old man? And mainly it's because God is the oldest. But if we say God doesn't age, why would he age? So we say God should be young. So God should be, Kaishore, eternally, 12 years old, not, 100 years old or whatever like that. So therefore, we need God to have a form of the spiritual, and it's not subject to the pure laws, except for any different forms. That is all perfect, all beautiful, perfect. So most religions, like God creates the world, God does activities that for them. But what else does he do besides create the universe? Does he do all that? Sit there, because the universe is going on, it's going on like this. So after he creates the universe, what does he do? So most religions don't describe the activities of God on a daily basis, but we do have nice descriptions in the Bhagavatam, Ramayana, every day. The Lord is we call these pastimes for the Leela. So we have elaborate descriptions of the Bhagavatam. So we get a more attractive, much more, say, variety of activities. In many religions, God is there. We don't want to give him a form, but then we kind of make form anyway. But the main idea is that God is a punisher. God is the one that is a fearful entity that punishes you for all your sins. But Bhagavan is the opposite. He's the object of various acts. So quite a different concept of God. He's a friendly God who acts even not like God. He has to act like your friend. So Krishna plays with counter. They're all equals. So God can act in a very intimate way. He can act as your child. So Mother Yasoda as Krishna as her child. Baby. Or Krishna is the lover of God. So we have all sorts of relationships with love. Another problem is why do we suffer? And many religions can't really answer that question. So many people get disgusted when they leave it. They say, if we suffer, then God knows and he doesn't do anything. And therefore he is merciless or he's powerful. And so then they'll say, what kind of God is that? They suffer. They're, of course, powerless. So the Vedic literatures have a very nice, very simple explanation. It's not that we suffer because God does, because we do it. Okay? Our past activities cause our suffering, which is natural. If you do a crime now, the government catches you, put you in jail. Yeah. So you suffer because you do a crime. So similarly, we suffer in the material world because of our past activities. It's our bad karma. We've done some violent act to get the result. We have to suffer that. So in other words, it's not the fault of God. It's our fault. He makes the law. But we cannot criticize it. Just you cannot criticize the laws. They don't have a law that because you're good, you're going to throw you in trouble. They have a law that you're going to throw you. So that's the law of karma. Bad activity, suffer. Bad activity, you have to work. That's a very just law. But if we misbehave, don't blame God. He makes the law that's just law. And if you're suffering, you have to blame yourself. Another problem, of course, is that most religions can't distinguish the body from the soul, and then you can't think about another lifetime. Never. We go one lifetime, that's finished. But then that's also like a rule. You have to one chance. Didn't ready or whatever. We're so condemned forever. So we suffer in hell or limbo or something. But very simple solution given in Bhagavad Gita is you got many chances. Many is one. You can go on forever. The material will get chance after chance. So we take body after body after body, and each body we get an opportunity to do something, correct ourselves, to improve ourselves, and if we want to, we can degrade ourselves. So we can repeated birth this, and it gives us more chance to improve ourselves. Okay. That another thing is one path or many paths. So if most religions say one path is this path, except this or you're condemned forever. But Bhagavad Gita, for instance, Krishna offers you 4 paths. You can do karma yoga, you can do, and worship any David does usually Gyan yoga, you can do Stanga yoga, or you can do Bhakti yoga. It gives you a choice. Of course, they're not all equal, but one will lead to the other. So we have a progression of different paths, and according to qualification, you can choose this or that one, but you should actually progress upwards. So therefore, it's not restricting. You have a choice. And even if you choose Bhakti, then you have a choice there also. You could worship Krishna, worship Rama, worship Shiva. You have a choice. There's many choices there. Not just one God, not as many forms. Okay? So therefore, in this way, the Vedas are quite liberal. If you're on a lower level, you just want to stay in the material, fine. At least you do karma yoga and restrict your senses to some degree, and you yourself. If you become a little more intelligent, intellectual, then you can do Gyan. Okay? If you want to be a little more physical, you can do Stanga yoga. And if you want to get realization of God perfect, do yoga in this one. So in this way, there's a variety of things you can do with the Vedic literature, ultimately for the highest. And so we recommend Krishna recommends Bhagavad Gita, we practice surrender to Krishna, worship Krishna, and forget everything else. If you can't, the other better is surrender to Krishna. And then Chaitanya came along and said, okay, we have Bhakti yoga, but simplest form of powerful Bhakti yoga is so, but this makes it even easier. So therefore, we have a very, very practical process for everybody recommended in the Vedic. In any case, somehow we should come to one. Then we can realize one. And that's the conclusion. Of all yogis, the one who with great faith always abides and thinks of within himself and renders loving service to me is the most intimately united with me in yoga as highest. So he gives, this is in the middle of chapter 6, 18th chapter. So if you want to follow Vedic authority, represent Gita, practice Bhakti. And if we practice Bhakti yoga, then of course you get everything. So at the end, it is stated, wherever there is Krishna, the master of mystics, wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power. So we succeed on all levels, my brethren. Okay. Any questions? Yes. Oh, super sorry. Yeah, Salomon. Like at the moment. Where is your subtle body at the moment? It's right on you like that. It's stuck there, but you can't see it. It interpenetrates the body and expands around it. This is what we call your aura. You can't see it unless you get special eyes. So if you develop your vision, you could see the aura, you can see the subtle body around you, chakras, but we haven't developed that with the effort like that. So it stays with you all your life. And when you die, it goes with the soul and leaves this body here. And it goes with you life after life after life after life. So it's kind of eternal. Yeah, it goes with you forever as long as you do the world. When you get liberation or go to Krishna, then it's material, so it's material. Yeah.